Hey, good folks, this is the Ancestry Chronicler, Deshaun Gandy. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel. Please be sure, if you haven't already, to subscribe. Also, if you are enjoying this content, please give me the thumbs up and like it, and also share it with someone who also enjoys this kind of content. And remember to hit that little bell so you'll be notified of forthcoming content that we'll be talking about and some things that we'll be dealing with, and so you'll be notified of it. And so today we have a special, I'm doing a special interview with a dear friend of mine, dancer, actor, and now an author as well. And I'm going to let her introduce herself. So go ahead, Carol, introduce yourself.
Peace and blessings. uh, Basically, I'm Carol Copper. And as Deshaun mentioned, I'm an actor, a singer, a dancer, an author, and a former educator. And I've written a book about uh, some experiences I've had over 25 years as an African dancer and how that's influenced my life to the point where it changed my view and the lens in which I view the world.
So yeah, so how long ago did we first meet? Man, I don't even know. I don't know how long ago that was, but we met at um, the acting school in New York, the Woody King Jr.
New
Acting
Federal
school.
Theater.
Yes, New Federal Theater in New York.
Yes.
And wow, that was the first time I met you, and you were impressive as an actor. I learned a lot from you. I enjoyed working with you. We also got a chance. I don't know if you remember. We also got a chance to share the stage at the National Black Theater in
Yes,
Harlem.
that was awesome. We did
Yeah.
a scene from Fences. We did the infamous
Mm-hmm.
uh, uh, with the scene that Viola Davis did, that snot nose scene.
Right. Exactly. Although
And
there was no snot in that scene, but
no, no, no.
we did a great job. Great job. Yes.
It was so great to work with you, Deshaun. And,
Thank
likewise, I loved working with you at New Federal Theater. And I learned a lot working with you as well.
thank you. And we had some great teachers there.
Oh,
The
yeah.
late, Arthur French, one of our teachers. Uh,
That devastated me.
yes, the late Arthur
Yeah.
French. Also, Alice Spivak, the late
Who
Alice Spivak.
also passed.
Yes,
Yes.
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 Beverly. Oh my God, what's her name?
Susanna Beverly.
Trezana Beverly. Yes. The Tony Award winning Trezana Beverly.
Yes.
And also, what was the young man that had the Shakespeare voice? The
Uh, oh gosh, Mr. Turner.
Mr.
Mr.
Turner.
Turner, the backup. He does understudy wherever James Earl Jones goes. He's
Yes.
his permanent understudy. Yes.
So I
And
really,
Petronia Paley.
yes, actually, yes,
Yeah.
real, yes.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed studying under them. I learned so
Yeah.
much, and so shout out to the Woody King Jr. New Federal Theater acting school in New York, and just just all the stuff that we learned coming through that school, and the people that we met. We met a lot of
Oh,
people, and case in point, I met you, and we've established
yeah.
a friendship. Since then, I got a chance to meet your husband. Uh, I believe I met both your sons as well. And so,
Probably, yeah.
so that was a wonderful,
And I
wonderful
met your
experience.
wife coming to your play that you
Yes.
directed in New Jersey. Yes.
That's true. That's true. Yes.
That was
Thank you. I
awesome.
remember
Went there
that.
with Sheridan. Sheridan and I got on the train.
Uh-huh.
Said we have to support our friend. We're going to New Jersey.
And I so appreciate that. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Now, so you wrote a book, and when I saw that you wrote a book, I'm an avid reader. I love to read. I love to support my friends who write books. But it wasn't just the fact that you wrote a book; it was what you wrote about. And you gave us your journey. You talked about going to Africa and how it changed how it just impacted how you see the world. And you just didn't give us that in one fell swoop. You took us along a journey, if you will, of through your African dance, how you got involved in African dance, and how African dance led you ultimately to the motherland, to Africa. And then, you know, the challenges and everything along the way, boom, then we get hit with that. And then when you come back and then just, you know, we just get this storyline, and I thought it was just wonderful. So I wanted to bring you in so you could just share that, you know, with my subscribers, and just talk a little bit like that. So what made you write the book?
Well, what happened was it was the pandemic, right? And so I want to say last April, a friend of mine wrote a book on how to write a book in terms of how to self-publish a book. Um, let's see if I have it here. Yeah. So she wrote this book called The Success Blueprint. And she's a writer and she's written quite a few books.
Okay.
So her name is Nancy Batista. Her pen name is Lenore Batista. And she said, I said, hey, I got your book. I'm going to read it. So I read that book from start to finish in like a day.
Wow.
I said, you know what? I have something to say. I'm going to write a book. Now, most people, when they think of writing a book, I have actually tried to write a book like maybe 10 years ago, and I could never get past a short story. I wrote about 4 or 5 short stories. And I actually am a journalism major in college. So I am a person who writes.
Okay.
And I keep journals. But I just could never do it. But I felt like I had something to say. And the other thing was the pandemic made me just start thinking about my life. And, you know, we really only, I think, the average person looks back maybe 5 years because everybody's on a 5-year plan.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is what I got to do in 5 years. And I said, you know what? Let me just start to rewind, and I began to rewind what has been a constant in my life. Yes, I act. Yes, I'm a teacher. I'm a retired teacher now. But all of the things that I do, no matter what do I rest with? What are the things that bring me complete and utter joy? Always is dance. I don't have to, study lines for it or, research anything. I just kind of was like always dropping in on a class, and to the point where I always went to a dance class consistently. And I began to think about, well, you know what? Dance kind of led me to do some stuff and made me think about my life differently. And then I pen to paper 4 weeks.
Mm.
I finished that book.
Wow.
Now, the book is short, granted, the book is short, but when I was done writing it, I had said what I wanted to say. I was not going to like pad it, fill it. I was like, okay, I said what I had to say.
Nice,
So
nice.
that's how it happened. And I began to think that, you know, dance really made me do a lot of things. If you read Du Bois, when he talks about double consciousness
Mm.
in his book, he talks about how people of color um, have this double consciousness where they look at themselves through the lens of how the dominant culture looks at them. So when they evaluate a situation, they think, okay, let me look at this glass of water right now the way I'm thinking, but then how do white people look at this glass of water? And then there's a reaction to, or a decision made on how one might look at this glass of water.
Right. Yeah.
So he's, when I remember reading that book, because what happened also when I started to go to this place, I started to feel like I had 2 degrees. I had a undergraduate degree and a master's degree. And I didn't know anything about my culture, I felt like that was important, but I was not going to go back to school. So what I did was I contacted the University of Illinois in Chicago, the African Studies Department, and I just spoke to the bookstore and I said, when you order all of your books for people in this major, can you send me that list? So they sent me the list. And then I looked at the list, and some of the stuff I knew I could get,
Hmm.
locally, but then some of the stuff there was no way I could get it.
Right.
So I sent them a check, and they sent me all of the books that they read over the
Wow.
course of the 2 years master's degree.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I read all of those books. I read all of those books.
So you get into African dancing, and you're doing and you're learning. I love how in the book you talk about the different styles and the different I mean, because Africa's a continent, so you have, I think it's 54 countries,
Yes.
and then you have this a variety of different dances, and probably within a particular country you can have, more than one type of dance, and each type of dance with different life events and things of that nature. And so how did all of that eventually lead you to Africa?
So I had been dancing for about 5 years. So I'm consistently going. I'm going like at least twice a week. I'm going to dance class.
Mm.
And I'm just basically feeling like the next thing needs to be that I need to go to Africa, right?
Mm.
So it just seemed like that was the next thing, because, that was 26 years ago. So I was probably teaching uh, maybe close to 10 years.
Okay.
And so anyway, I went on this trip, collected money over like the course of 6 months from us. And I went with a bunch of friends who were all educators. And so either they were educators or they were dancers or educator dancers.
Okay.
And so we went on this trip. We all knew each other. Some of us tighter than other people, but we all went, and that's how it happened.
So what countries did you go to in Africa?
So I went to Senegal, and we stayed there for a week, and then we went to the Gambia
Mhm.
for a week.
So as an African American, um, did you go over to Africa with preconceived notions, whether they were negative or positive, and did those preconceived notions, were they challenged? Were they dispelled? What did you learn new by being there?
I really didn't have anything but the negative.
Okay.
But I did see a lot of poverty, kids with polio, and um, I saw a lot of that.
Right.
I did see that,
Hmm.
because we went everywhere. We went everywhere.
Right.
Um, I saw that. I did see that, because they didn't have. I know we made friends with a lot of tour guides, and they all talked about the importance of that yellow fever shot, because every single one of them had a family member who had died from yellow fever.
Wow. Wow.
There were shots they didn't get, like the polio shots.
Hmm.
People had polio. Um, there was stuff that people had. They talked about, the access to medicine. That's not, that wasn't there.
Right.
And
Right. Right.
yeah.
And I think it's important that for those who are boots on the ground there, uh, that in giving that they give the whole story, and not just, I mean, because we can give either perspective. We can talk about all of the negative things that are going on there, or we could talk about all the positive things that go on there and paint this picture of a flowery bed of ease, and make people think that it's the Garden of Eden, and in reality, it's just like any other place. You have, like I know you said, that there were cities there. You literally saw cities, and I think that that's one of the things that amazes me about Africa is that you could just Google African cities, and you see you see these beautiful, gorgeous cities. You know, um, in every aspect, all over the continent, and it's just beautiful. How were the people there? How did you? Because they always say African people don't like African Americans, or African Americans don't like, like there's always this perceived rift of who likes who, and why we don't like each other. But how was the people there?
So the people that I met, everybody was so nice. Okay. Our tour guides were wonderful. I'm still friends with Dauda to this day. Um, I sent him an advanced reader copy of the book, and he shared something with me that he had not shared with me after all these years. Because he's come back and forth to New
Mm-hmm.
York, so I've seen him. Um, he said that the first time that when he was tour guide with us, he had only been a tour guide maybe a year before that, and that when he the first year that he was a tour guide, when African Americans came to the slave house, uh, he would he was shocked the very first day, because he said that every time they were in the door of no return, they would pray, sing songs, and cry. And he said, and then they would never remember that they did this.
Mm.
So he shared a poem with me that he wrote, and I read it. And he said he wrote that poem because he was an English major
Okay.
when he was in college. And he wrote this poem, and he said, the poem basically talks about how it touched him. He had no idea that African Americans who would come there and be that connected. He said he's day after day, it was the same thing.
Wow.
And he said, Carol, when you put that in your book, he said, I just want you to know that that happened to the point where the guy, the curator of that particular museum slave house, he then would shut down the place. Whenever a group of African Americans came, we shut it down to everybody, would just be the African Americans so they can have their total experience.
Wow, that's
He
beautiful.
said we would tell them different. He said it was a different presentation. He
Wow.
said, and they brought out the ball and chains, and they brought us in and they showed us where underneath the ground they would put the men who, if they didn't act correct, and they showed us this big, how like in those Saturday morning cartoons, the old ones, where they would have a big ball and chain for people in prisons, which if you saw the cartoon, you would say, well, why would they have that?
Right,
That
right.
doesn't happen.
Exactly,
What is
exactly.
that? Well,
Uh-huh.
apparently it does happen, because he showed the ball and the chains and how they would have to carry around this ball.
Mm.
And this was underneath the ground, and how then above that, there was a room for the women, a room for the men, and a room for the babies. The babies weren't even allowed to be with their mothers.
Wow.
And
That's
then
whew.
is and they said that they would not change the floor. They wanted to change the floor because they felt like they needed a new floor. So
Mhm.
they only allowed them to put the floor in the women's room, but they kept the ground. So I felt some type of way when I was walking on that ground. We all
Yes.
took our shoes off and we walked on the ground that our ancestors walked on.
Um,
And then when we came out, we started, the tour guide, Daoud, was like, okay, do you guys want to pray or sing? And then we just started singing. I do not know, because I haven't looked at the tape in a while. I do not know what we sang, but we all knew the song.
mm.
And we just prayed. And then after we prayed and everything, we left. Now, we went to that island. There is an orphanage on the island. We had combined our efforts in bringing school supplies.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
We brought them to the school, which was not in session.
I guess this is like my final question for you, but this is a load bearing question. On page 28 of your book, it's the beginning of chapter 6, uh, Motherland Visit. Um, you start off the chapter by saying, "Sis, I suggest at least one trip to the motherland. Going
Mhm.
to Africa made a major impact on my knowledge of the world as a global citizen?
Yes,
What
because
did you mean by that?
yes, because I have this colleague who as a matter of fact, just got off the phone with her, Adiola Teller Williams, whose mother is Jamaican and her father is from Nigeria, and she came here, I guess, in middle school, and she teaches history, high school history, and she always would say, we're global citizens. And I would see her teaching that to her students. We're global citizens. We're not minorities. See, the word minority is a loaded word. If as a child, you're constantly hearing minority, minority doesn't sound good. Minority has a negative connotation.
Absolutely.
So the majority is Caucasian, really not Caucasian, because if you sit in her class, Caucasian means that you were from the Caucasus Mountains. And so that really is a false title. And we also know race. If you listen to T-N-S-E Coates, we know that race is a construct started by Thomas Jefferson so that he can justify slavery. But I digress. So, she talked about that. And, I said, you know what, you're right. We are global citizens. People of color are the majority in the world. And if we look at ourselves as part of not just the diaspora, but of the world, we are going to say that we are global citizens and that we are not the minority.
Right, we're the global majority.
We are the global majority, and that's something, words matter. You have to be careful of the things that you say to people. And then when I talk about the lens, about how I view the world, my memoir is a memoir about transformation. It's not just about my journey as an African dancer, but it's how African dance led to my transformation and how I think, how I move, how I speak, how, I think, therefore I am. I think about all of these things. I think about what is my connection to people in the world, and how do I speak? Do I speak positive about my culture? So definitely language, in terms of how I dress, embracing African clothes and just loving the vibrancy of the colors. I see you have your flag behind you, nobody in America is putting those colors together to go out,
That's
true.
Out on the street. That's true. Got my Sierra Leone and my Cameroon representing.
Okay. But there's so the way I speak, the way that I talk to other people, trying to always uplift and make people feel good about themselves, and also to forgive themselves when they do things that maybe are not correct or whatever, just always trying to make, just changing my outlook, and feeling so proud. I remember one place I went to when I went to Senegal, which I don't bring up in the book, which I should have, was I went to the university. And at the university, we walked around and we spoke to some of the professors. School was not in session. But I remember one of the books that I had read when I was reading about the University of Chicago, all of those books, there were books about by I think, what was her name, the ISIS Papers, and all of these other books, and they always would reference Check and Jump, CHEIKHNDIOP, pronounced Check and Jump. And when I went there, they had all of his papers, and he is somebody for people to look up, DIOP. He talks about the history. He's the keeper of the history. And keep in mind, a lot of history was obviously oral. right? People didn't write, they passed it down, which in an oral tradition that we do today. And
Right.
it comes out through our rap, it comes out through our call and response. We are always, even in church, call and response.
Right.
That
Right.
is part of our Africanness.
Yes.
And one of the things that you learn about it are the griots, G-R-I-O-T, griots, which is a French word, which probably means that there was an African word before that. You
Right.
know,
Right. Yes.
but the griots, they buried them in the baobab tree, and the baobab tree is an
Yes.
upside down tree.
Mhm.
And there are families when they come and they teach African dance. They are from the family of the griots.
Wow.
Everybody doesn't teach African dance.
Right. Wow.
Only
Okay. Okay.
only those who are part of that family tradition. So if
Gotcha.
you are part of that tradition, that means you're somebody in your family, your parents, or maybe your father's line or your mother's line, then their line above them, that it has to come down through the family.
Okay.
Regular people just don't decide to become that person, and they sing and they dance, and the song that they share usually is a story, you know.
So if there is a message that you want to leave with um, people watching this, my subscribers and those who will tune in to watch this, um, what's that message that you want to leave with them from your experience, from the tales from the African dance floor, a memoir and a letter that you put in this book? How would you? What's your
Uh,
message?
the message is that embrace your culture, because it will leave you feeling full. You will feel good about yourself. I'm sure you feel really great about yourself, knowing what country your family is from. I haven't taken that step yet,
Mhm.
but just knowing that, I just feel like every time I run into anybody from West Africa, that they could be my cousin.
Right. Yes,
And I feel connected.
yeah.
I feel connected. It's good. I think that people, African Americans, need to become more connected. It's going to make your life better. You're going to feel culturally rooted. And it's not just, that Kwanzaa thing, or that,
Right.
let me put a kufi on my head. It's more, that you were meant to wear bright colors.
Yeah.
That the cowrie shells around your neck
Mhm.
are beautiful.
Yes.
That you have that strong African nose, and
Yes.
that
Yes.
you come
Yes.
from somewhere, and that you come from something good, something
hmm
great,
hmm
and that we're talking about brilliant people,
Yes.
brilliant
Sure. Oh
people.
yes.
you know, and it's just, I feel great, and I know that sometimes people are not open to that
hmm
because they have been so indoctrinated that it is not great. Then, just take some time, read some books, talk to some people, go take an African dance class, and talk to the teacher, talk to people, just immerse yourself, because you will find yourself.
Yes. I love that. I love that. I love that. And as a cultural and um, ancestral historian, and as an Afrocentric genealogist, I really appreciate that message of just appreciating who we are, and learning and appreciating the ingredients that make up the recipe of who we are. That's one of the things I do and I push on my platform. Um, I want you to tell the people how they can get your book.
So my book is available on Amazon.com. It's $10 on Amazon.com. And the correct spelling of my name is Carol, Copper, Copper, not Cooper, Copper. Um, and the book has been well received from So many people, it's funny how people read something, and you know how we talked about looking at things through a lens, like what is the critical lens in which you view
Mhm.
things and what is it colored by? I
Right.
mean, I had a physicist from a university send me an email, tell me he read my book. Yes. And he was most interested in when I went to the slave dungeon and how did I feel
Mhm.
when I
Wow.
was there.
Well, I'll tell you what, this book was for me a great read, an awesome journey. I love picking up a book and going on a journey. And you definitely take us on a journey with your experience and how it led you to Africa, how it led you, what you gleaned from that, what you brought back, just how it structured you to inform the students that you taught. There's just so many lessons and so many things that I was able to just pull out of this book full of gems and it was just really great and I really endorse this book and I tell my subscribers definitely go out and get this book. It's a great read. It's Carol Copper's journey. It's her experience and she invites you to come along that journey with her and it's a great journey. And so Carol Copper, my friend, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule and for coming on to my channel and just sharing with us, your experience and the impact that Africa had on you, how it changed you, and just the words that you left with us, and also what you put in this book, so that others can grab this who don't have access to you. This book is on Amazon, and others can get your book and not only get what you put in this book, but they can also contact you. You have your contact information in this book as well. And so, if anybody want to, I know you do speaking engagements and things of that nature. So, if anybody wanted to do, I'm going to have your information in the description below. So if anybody want to reach you and contact you and things of that nature, they can do that. But once again, I want to thank you so much, Carol, for coming on. And I am the Ancestry Chronicler, the Sean J. Gandy, and I thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel. And I hope that you have enjoyed this interview with Carol Copper on Tales from the African Dance Floor. As Yes, as she shared with us her experience and the impact that visiting the motherland, Africa, has had on her. And please subscribe. Also, give me that thumbs up if you like it, and also share it with somebody else. Spread that information around and hit that little bell so you'll be notified of upcoming content. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Peace, peace, peace. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.